This presentation is called Beyond Campus Walls, Developing Online Advising Services for Working College Students. In this module, you will learn that 1. Working students comprise a significant subpopulation on many colleges and universities across the country. 2. We will learn about millennial students and adult learners and their relationship with technology. And 3. We will learn about some specific software and tools that advisors can use to assist their students. We will begin with the definition of the working college student. We will then look at generational characteristics between millennials and adult learners, and then we will then look at the software and tools that can help advisors better serve their students. Those tools include Adobe Captivate, Adobe Acrobat, and WordPress. And then we will end with a conclusion and some additional resources. The image of a student whose usual schedule is dedicated to a combination of studying, extracurricular activities on campus, and socialization is largely a myth in 2011. Working students who simultaneously juggle academics with work and often family commitments, comprise a large college subpopulation. Recent economic turmoil has caused an influx of adult learners as well to seek a post-secondary education, and that trend has been well documented in the media. In fact, adult learner enrollment numbers actually exceeded their traditional age student counterparts from 2000 to 2009. Approximately 80% of all adult learners were employed in 2006. Many traditional age students also work an increasing number of hours to offset rising tuition costs, according to the National Center for Education Statistics in 2009. 41% of full-time and 76% of part-time college students aged 16 to 24 were employed that year. Now let's learn about some of the characteristics of these working students. We're going to learn characteristics for both millennial students and adult learners and what their relationship is with technology. Advisors should consider the common characteristics and learning styles of their traditional and adult working students before developing any online or web-enhanced content. Let's first learn a little more about millennial students. Millennial students are mostly between the ages of 16 to 24. They're a very large generation. In fact, they are the largest generation since the baby boomers. They have very involved parents or guardian figures normally. Sometimes in academia we have lovingly referred to some of these parents as helicopter parents. But joking aside, they have very involved parental figures. They're commonly very confident and optimistic about their future and their life situation. They are social issue focused, social justice focused. They're often conventional. They're usually achievers, and most importantly, they are technology centered. This generation, they have been raised with technology. Technology is ingrained in them. They use technology all of the time, so they're very technology centered. Specifically, as it relates to technology, 3/4 of millennial students have created an account on a social networking site such as Facebook or Twitter. 25% of millennial students reported texting more than 50 times a day, and 80% text at least once a day. Also, 62% claim to use wireless internet away from home. Consequently, these students need learning activities that are technology heavy, team or community oriented based, and they need expectations and objectives that are clear. Now let's learn a little bit about adult learners. Adult learners include both baby boomers and Generation Xers. Generally, they're interested in connecting their education with their work and personal experiences. Many of them are often juggling school with full-time work and several family commitments. They often desire scheduling flexibility and appointment flexibility when they're on campus. They're not as technology dependent as the millennials, and they also desire and strive for a personal connection with faculty and staff members. So any services for them need to be not only high tech, but also need to have a high touch approach. Now we're going to learn about some of the specific technology related tools that you can use. The first one that we're going to look at is Adobe Captivate. Click Adobe Captivate to continue. Some of the best Captivate features, one that was mentioned on the previous slide, is it is so easy in Captivate to take existing PowerPoints, put them in Captivate, and really spice them up. You can also develop quizzes or games to assess knowledge of your advisee or learner. These quizzes, answers to these quizzes can be tied to Blackboard or any other learning management system. Similar to PowerPoint, you have very easy to narrate voiceover, and then they can be published in a variety of formats, including PDF, so anyone can access your product without having to have any specific software. So to learn more, you can go to adobe.com. You can download a fabulous free 30-day trial for your PC or Mac, and then you can begin practicing creating some great content with Adobe Captivate. One specific idea that an advising center could do using Adobe Captivate is a short video or module that introduces all the counselors in the advising center and what particular students they work with. Let's now look at another example of a module completed in Adobe Captivate where a staff member is using green screen technology to demonstrate important items on an institution's website.
Tired of waiting in long lines to register? Want to take your schedule into your own hands? Log on to PeopleSoft.
As I mentioned earlier, you can also add quiz features to your modules to assess that your advisees or learners are learning the material. So here are a few true-false questions that I'll demonstrate. So this one I selected true. The answer is really false. It tells you why it's false. You can then select continue and then go on to the next question. For this, I'll select false, and it is false, and then it will tell you some information about why that was false. These ideas or similar concepts would generally work well with both millennial students and adult learners because, one, millennial students respond well to technology, as we've already discussed, and they desire information that can be digested very quickly. Introducing counseling staff and or using a green screen to introduce material such as an advising web page like I showed you in the example creates a personal connection that adult learners crave while it also provides the flexibility that they need. We are now going to learn about another tool, Adobe Acrobat. So click Adobe Acrobat to continue. Adobe Acrobat is a wonderful tool where you can take dull forms or handouts and make them interactive. They are extremely easy to create, and then you can send them to students via email for them to complete and send back to you. It takes very minimal time to create them, and it is a very inexpensive software. Now let's take a look at a few examples of using Adobe Acrobat. Here we have a form that students can complete regarding SMART goals. However, it is very difficult for students to complete this form unless they are actually in the office with you. However, with having Adobe Acrobat, you put the form into Acrobat, go to Edit, and it automatically recognizes many of the fields that you want students to populate. As you see on the screen, on the left-hand side, you can even create a table of contents. You can name your different fields, and you can also set which fields or text boxes students are required to complete and which are optional. So you've taken a form, that was dull, that was hard for students to complete if they're not in the office, and made it much more interactive and accessible for them in a very, very short amount of time. This is another example of a form that has been converted into an editable and interactive document in Adobe Acrobat. In this form, students will look at general transferable skills they've obtained in previous employment and educational experiences, and then see which skill sets they still need to work on. So they can check on which skills need improvement, and then that becomes a conversation point when they meet with their advisor. Creating forms with Adobe Acrobat will be beneficial for both your millennial students and adult learners. Millennial students will really enjoy the interactivity, and adult learners will respond to the flexibility and any activities that really connect their previous experiences and educational goals, as was demonstrated in both the examples that I showed. Now let's learn a little about WordPress. WordPress is a free and easy way to create a website without having to know any HTML. Over 25 million people around the world use WordPress to create websites or blogs. Creating a WordPress site is a great strategy to stay connected with students and update information regarding events, for example, without having to be dependent on technology staff to do so for you. Here's an example of a very quick site that I created on WordPress. There are so many different templates to choose from. It's very intuitive, very user-friendly. You can very quickly create something. You can also make it public or password protected if you're only wanting certain students or advisees to actually be able to access it. Some ideas on WordPress that you could include: you could have a section or a link for information about the staff, upcoming events, frequently asked advising questions, advising expectations and objectives. That would be good information to give to your students. And then also, as we've just talked about, any relevant Captivate or YouTube projects or modules addressing specific questions that the students have. You could put that on there as well. There are several benefits and considerations when creating interactive content using WordPress. Millennial students often need specific objectives and expectations, so including these topics within a WordPress site will be very helpful. Millennial students are also very accustomed to navigating social networking sites like WordPress, so they will find it very simple to do so. Adult learners often seek out details and will benefit from a WordPress site that contains FAQs and links to additional relevant campus resources. Now it's time for a quick conclusion. Thank you for listening and viewing this presentation. In conclusion, I realize that learning technology can be very stressful and overwhelming. It's often common to feel However, finding easy-to-use technology-related tools will allow you to better the needs of your working students. Let's embrace this technology because